Alrighty, there we go. Got the socket in, and we got the connections back to it. Notice the solder on the lugs compared to the solder on the original converter tube socket. You don't need a great deal of gamma-globula built up on those things. You need just enough to make a good connection on it, and that's all you need. You don't need to flood it. So we're going to get this thing closed up. We're going to get this trap back in it and get it wired in and grounded, and then we're going to double check some of this other work here real quick, flip it over, and we'll give it another test. So stand by. Okay, more issues. There appears to have been an open developed in the primary coil of the secondary IF in this radio. So we've got it removed and got the repair made. This I've added this length of lead onto this tab here. This is the blue lead that comes out of the second IF and goes to the A7 plate. So it does have B plus on it. That's probably, it was probably going, just hanging by a thread. When I pulled it, it was just hanging off the lug here by one of its little fiber cover wrappings. So I added this lead on it. What I do on some of my let's see if I can get this thing off here. I take in when I do some of my circuit board work for my power supplies, I clip the excess lead off. Some of them are pretty long, about an inch or inch and a quarter plus, and I bag them in this little baggie and put them aside in case I ever need them. And in this instance, since I'm not going to replace this lead, because they're still pliable enough. They're not like the old rubber ones that if you look at it, they crumble. So I went ahead and put one of these little leads on this terminal here, soldered it on, and then that extended this thing up to get a little closer, because this is the bottom one on this particular radio. I don't know about the others, but on this particular radio, the primaries are at the bottom of the can and the secondaries are at the top of the can. So there was more than enough there to take this and gently scrape the fibrous covering wrapping off of it and expose some of the micro thin wire and dress it around that lead and tack solder it on. And she's coming up, she shows 31 ohms on the secondary, which is proper. 32 ohms on the secondary, 31 ohms on the primary. Now on these, there was one other 527 that I did a year or so ago that I had to shelf because there was a problem with the IF, and what happened was when I got the can extracted off the chassis, I went through and I identified which color lead was in which corner of the can, so I could put it back in the same orientation. And I went to extract the core from the can, and the nut that they had on the top of it was tight. I mean, it was they put a double of some locking stuff to keep it from, I guess, vibrating loose, because this here sits right next to the speaker. And but they do that with most all of their IF cans I've seen. This top post that holds this into the can, and then the can is fastened in through these studs. Well, I went and got me a nut driver and went to extract the guts of the IF can, and just started cranking away on the doggone thing, and I noticed, well, heck, it doesn't appear to be coming loose. Well, it was just a spinning and a spinning, but there was just enough crap in the threads that it only went just so far to loosen the stem, the center stem of the entire, because this is just like a 3/8 wood dowel, and it's corkscrewed into the top of that thing. And when I went to torquing around and around and around trying to pull it loose, the entire stem, and coils and all, was just a spinning in the can, and I never realized it. And you can guess what happened. It yanked all these little fine wires right off the and I couldn't tell which one went to where, and I didn't know which one was which and whatever, until I got another radio and went to restore or refurbish it, and I pulled the same can out of it and opened it up and retraced a diagram showing which one was the primary and which one was the secondary, and how it was wound onto the core, which direction, and which adjuster it went to, which lugs they went to. And I must have had that thing sitting on the shelf for near almost a year before I happened across another radio at a fairly good price. So that's all I'm saying is be cautious. Make sure that if you're going to have to open one of these up for any reason, whether you're replacing the crappy wire, or you've discovered an open in one of the coils, that you don't put yourself in the dirt bag, in the hurt bag, on the thing by just cranking on the thing, and realizing afterwards that you ruined it. But it can be salvaged. It just needs time, patience, and another radio. So that's all I wanted to cover on that. Okay, here's what we got. Back on the Zenith 527. Besides the replacement of the socket, I had to replace the other socket also with it. So both sockets on the front end have been changed. Decided to go through and remove the IF can and put new wire in it, as well as we'd already done the second IF anyway when we were in that location working. I still got an issue with the shortwave reception. Not good. It did squeal at me a few times when it did make any noise, and some of the broadcast the broadcast band had a couple of small minor issues with it also. Um, I had to gut the components in here, which were, I got them right over here. The band switch. Um, I went ahead and pulled this band switch, as well as the oscillator coil that goes in here, like so. Decided to pull those because this shortwave coil had an open to ground. That was that is the coil that came in this chassis. I have another coil from another 527 that is going to be down the road refurbishment when I get to it, and it had a good coil in it. So what I did, this here is the coil that came out of this set, and it has an open to ground. So I'm going to repair that and stick it into the other chassis whenever I get to it. This is the one from the other chassis that I pulled and put into here, and now I'm getting ready to stick all these other components back in and get them reconnected. But I'm going to have to do some rewiring of some of the existing components, like this patter. That wiring is usually bad, iffy at best, because it becomes brittle and it starts to break apart and the insulation come off. So I'm just going to go ahead and renew it back to the back. It runs back, one line runs back to this band switch, and the other one runs to one side of this coil, the oscillator coil. So and I figured since I got them out, I might as well go ahead and test them for characteristics, and draw up a diagram showing how they interconnect with each other. Here is the band switch and its configuration, and here is the shortwave coil. The coil that was in this radio. Here is your ground point, and here is your other connection to that ground point via these 3 or 4 loops of 38 gauge magnet wire. So I don't know what became of the wiring and everything, but I did notice whenever I was checking this out, because I was doing a tracing of the circuitry for the schematic, got to this point and noticed down in between all of this components that somebody had heated the solder point on the chassis to the coil, and the coil was burnt by, I guess, the soldering, whatever soldering device they were using, and it didn't look good. So I got closer look at it, put more light on it, and sure enough, there's an open there. The 3 to 4 loops of wire that they had on there, I couldn't find it. So I went to the other chassis and looked at this one that was installed in it, and I could see the little coil of wiring in proximity to the main coil, I guess the primary coil of it, and realized that, yeah, that original coil was bad. So I went ahead and did a cleanup of the band switch contacts and everything, and did a cleanup of most of the components that was on this, and got it cleared up and identified everything. So I'm getting ready to put it back in, but I'm going to change this wiring in here before I do that and get it all sandwiched back in together there. So that's just an update of where I am on this particular radio. It's really turned out to be a real nightmare. It's a bane of my existence. But we're going to keep chugging away until we get her going. So, more to come.